Okay, to those who are here for the first time, we are doing the Buddha Vandana, the 9 qualities of the Buddha, what you chant every time before the start of the class. Very important that we know the Buddha well because he's the one who taught us the Dharma. Is everybody back? Okay, can you hear me clearly from behind? Yes, okay. Now, let's look at the 5th quality of the Buddha now. That's Lokavidu, which means knower of the world. And the Buddha is the knower of the world because he understands the world in all ways. We're talking about the outer world of the cosmos and then the inner world of formations, of conditioned things. Okay, for those who are new and do not know what you mean by formations, conditioned things, don't worry, I'll be repeating all these very frequently next time. Now let's look at the world as cosmos first. And this world that we live in, that we know of, is just one of the 31 realms of existence that forms what we call samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Okay, we look at the sensuous world first, Kamaloka, and we are at realm 5. And these altogether 11 realms, okay, are realms in which experience is dominated by your 5 senses. And when the students mention states of deprivation or about beings passing away and then reappearing in good or bad destinations, they're referring to realms 1 to 4. And the rest are actually known as favorable destinations. Okay, this is what you call the form world, Rupa Loka, consists altogether 16 realms. And those who have attained the Rupa jhanas, that means the 1st to 4th jhanas, and who habitually abide in the 4 sublime states, practice the 4 sublime states of loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity will be reborn here. I use the word generally because where you are reborn depends on your last thought moment. We'll cover that when we touch on the topic of karma. And the beings here apparently have very refined bodies of pure light, and they also experience very refined forms of mental pleasure. Okay, this is still the Rupa Loka. The realms 23 to 27, that's what you call the pure abodes. That's where the anagamis or the non-returners are reborn. Anagamis are those who have reached the 3rd stage of enlightenment. There are altogether 4 stages, with Arahant being the 4th stage. And this is what you call the Arupa Loka. Okay, realms 28 to 31, and those who have attained the formless jhanas, that means jhana 5 to 8. They are generally reborn here. So this is what you call samsara, the 31 realms of existence, and Nibbana is beyond that. Okay, so where does it all begin? The Buddha actually said, Bhikkhus, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. A first point is not discerned of beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Okay, as sentient beings need a place to survive in, we can actually infer from here that the world, the universe, actually has no discoverable beginning at all too, right? Then we saw in the section on Vijayacharana Sampanno, that means about the perfection in conduct and knowledge. Okay, that the Buddha saw eons of world contraction and eons of world expansion. It actually means that the world evolves, it dissolves, and then evolves again and again. Okay, I used the words or and in brackets. Why? Because if it continues in this way, contraction, expansion, there is really nothing to indicate an apocalypse of any sort, right? Or that there will be a final extinction or destruction of the universe. Right? So there's really no beginning or end as we know it at this point. And the Buddha also saw countless world systems. And he said that within these world systems, there are thousands of suns and thousands of moons. And he also said this in one of the suttas, and even in those abysmal world interspaces of vacancy, gloom, and utter darkness, where the moon and the sun, mighty and powerful as they are, cannot make their light prevail. What do you think that is? Yes, the black hole. Okay, so the universe, with all the galaxies, they actually operate according to the natural law of cause and effect, like all conditioned things. So, the universe actually exists due to natural causes and not due to supernatural ones. So, how does the Buddha answer when people ask him about the origin of the world? Okay, this is the answer. He gives a typical answer. And what, bhikkhus, is the origin of the world? Independence on the I and forms, I consciousness arises. The meeting of the three is contact. With contact as condition, feeling comes to be. With feeling as condition, you have craving. Then craving gives rise to clinging, which then gives rise to aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. Okay, this is what you know as the world of formations, the inner world. And this internal world is the world of formations, the seeing world, okay, the hearing world, the smelling world, tasting world, what else? Touching world and the thinking world. Okay, the Buddha understands how they rise and they fall. He understands the impermanent, unsatisfactory nature of these worlds. He understands that these worlds have no self, have no soul. Okay, and he understands how people can get trapped by them or be freed from them. And apart from these six sense bases, okay, the Buddha also talks about the origins of other conditioned things. Here are the more common ones. You have the 5 aggregates, 4 nutriments, the 8 worldly conditions, 18 elements. And we cling to all these, what you call 死都不放, die also won't let go. Okay. Now, you will see that there's a lot of overlaps between them because they are all linked. Okay. And why the Buddha talks about 5 aggregates sometimes, why he talks about 4 nutriments, really depends on his audience, who they are, what's their capabilities, what's their inclinations. Okay. Somewhere down the road, I will touch on the 6 sense basis, explain to you through the Chachaka Sutta, what they call the 6 sets of 6. That one's very interesting. Okay, now Bhikkhu Bodhi actually explains that these first 5 qualities are what the Buddha possesses within himself, okay, which makes him a very great teacher, unsurpassed in wisdom and in conduct. The next 4 qualities represent the way he interacts with other people and what establishes him as the best person to help and to guide others. Okay, so the next quality we're going to look at is Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati. Okay, this is what it means. Anuttaro means incomparable, unsurpassed. Purisa Dhamma, individuals to whom are bestowed the gift of Dhamma. Sarati's leader. In fact, Sarati has a meaning called charioteer, the one with a chariot. It makes sense because a charioteer actually must know how to tame the horses leading the chariot, how to guide them efficiently, especially in times of war. Now, so together, this word Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati means incomparable leader capable of taming persons to be tamed. Okay, we have already seen how the Buddha used his spiritual powers to help people realize Dhamma. So now we're going to look at one more story, okay, about how the Buddha helped someone whom everyone gave up on. Okay, there's this monk called Chula Pandaka. Okay, in 4 months as a monk, he could not remember a single stanza that he learned, even though he was very, very hardworking. Okay, that was because in his previous life, he was a very highly intelligent individual, but he kept making fun and looking down on people who were not intelligent. So in this present life, okay, he was perceived as stupid, he was discriminated, and even expelled from the Sangha by his elder brother, who was also a monk. So the Buddha, with his divine eye, became aware of what happened, knew the reasons behind it, and intercepted before he left. So this, what Buddha did was create this white piece of cloth and gave it to Chula Pandaka. And he told him to take this piece of cloth, put it against the rising sun every morning. Okay, at the same time, rub the cloth and repeat the words Rajo Haranam, which means taking off impurity, taking off impurity. So Chula Pandaka did that, and after a while, the constant rubbing made the cloth very dirty. Okay, and he came to realize through that the impermanent nature of all conditioned things, and he became enlightened. So shall we all go back and try that? Okay, now, the Buddha does not train every person he comes across. There are just some people who are not ready for the Dharma. In one instance, there's this guy called Casey, the horse trainer, told Buddha that if he has a horse that has to be trained but wouldn't submit to discipline by any method, he would kill the horse. Then he asked the Buddha, how do you discipline people to be tamed? And the Buddha said this: I discipline one kind of person gently, another kind sternly, and still another kind both gently and sternly. Gently means he would tell the person, okay, when you have good bodily conduct, good verbal conduct, good mental conduct, this is what happens. Sternly means when you have bad bodily conduct, you have bad verbal conduct, you have bad mental conduct, this is what happens. You will be reborn in states of deprivation. Okay? Or sometimes he combines the two. If a person to be tamed by me won't submit to discipline by any of these methods, then I kill him. Then of course Casey said, you're a monk, you're not supposed to kill anyone. I said, for this Casey, is killing in a noble one's discipline. The Tathagata thinks one should not be spoken to and instructed, and one's wise fellow monks too think one should not be spoken to and instructed. That means he ignores the person. That means the person is not ready for the Dharma. Not everyone is. So the next quality, we have Satta Deva Manusanam. Satta, teacher. Deva means a god, a deity. I use God with a small g. Big God usually means creator God. Manusanam, human. Okay, and to know the extent of the Buddha's interaction with humans and with the Devas, we have to look at his daily schedule. Okay, now in the morning session, the Buddha rises early, takes care of his physical needs, and then he sits in seclusion until alms round. Then he will go off either on his own or with his company of bhikkhus. How many of you here have ever done alms giving in a traditional way? Okay, actually it's quite interesting. In Thailand they call it pindapat, where you wake up at dawn, you either cook your own food or you buy it from the market, and then you line the road where you know the monks will pass. Okay, when they come, they will extend the bowl to you, and you just put in the food, but you must be careful not to touch the bowl. Okay, and for those who signed up for the year-end retreat with Ajahn Suchito, I think, yeah, on the last day, that's what we will arrange for you. We get the kitchen to cook, and then you all wake up early, and we go and line outside Wat Ratanawan, where Ajahn Sumedho has retired to, and you will see all the monks coming out. It's actually a very interesting experience, right? So, and after the almsgiving, the Buddha will bless the donors, and this also includes a short talk where he will instruct them in some aspect of the Dharma. Okay, then he returns to the monastery and he waits until all the monks have finished the meals, and then they'll assemble and he'll give them a Dharma talk. And after that, he will assign them meditation subjects according to their temperaments. And he will then go back to his kuti, and if necessary, he will rest for a while. And it became more and more necessary as he grew older because his health was quite bad, and he always had a lot of aches and pains. Okay, and once refreshed, he would spend the second part of the afternoon surveying the world to see who needs his help. And in the later part of the afternoon, he teaches the lay people who gather in his monastery, dispensing Dharma in a way that's commensurate with their inclinations and their abilities. And on very rare occasions, he will use his spiritual power, okay, to help someone. And it's usually people like Kema, remember we spoke about it 2 weeks ago, who already mature in their panya, their wisdom, and they are ready for enlightenment, but they just need a little help, a little push in the right direction. That's when the Buddha will resort to spiritual powers. So in the first watch of the night, which is 6 to 10 p.m., that's the night session, the Buddha addresses his monks' requests by either answering their questions about the Dharma, assigning them meditation subjects, or he expounds the Dharma to them. And in the middle watch, that's when the celestial beings will come to ask him whatever questions they have in their minds. And sometimes the Buddha will travel to the higher planes there to give a personal discourse to a deity, okay, who needs his help. And you can tell which are the discourses with devas because they always come with this passage in the suttas. Now when the night was fast spent and a certain deva of surpassing splendor came to the Buddha, respectfully saluted him and stood at one side. Okay, there are a lot of discourses to devas that are found in the Samyutta Nikaya of the Pali Canon. That is the connected discourses of the Buddha. Can go and read up their whole sections of it. Okay, and there are a few famous ones, like some of you may be familiar with this, the Maha Mangala Sutta, the Greater Discourse on Blessings, where the Buddha taught 30 auspices which lead to happiness in this present life and the lives to come. Then this Brahmani Mantanika Sutta, where the Buddha traveled to, I think, round 14 to correct a wrong view that's held by this Bhaka Brahma, who holds the eternalist view, that soul is eternal. Eternalist view about himself and also the world that he lived in. And you have this Sakkapanha Sutta, okay, where it consists of these questions by Saka. Saka is the lord of the Devas, about the sources of conflict and hostility, and he also asked the Buddha about the path of practice that can end all these. Because the Devas and Asuras, sometimes they fight against each other. And the Devas, like humans, they develop faith in the Buddha by practicing his teachings. Have you all seen this picture before? This is a very famous picture where the Buddha descended from Tawatimsa, heaven, after spending some time teaching the Devas Dharma, and the chief beneficiary of his teaching was his biological mother, Mahamaya. And here he's accompanied by two Deva kings, Saka and Mahabrahma. At the night session, he divides it into 4 parts. It's from 2 to 6 a.m. First part, walking back and forth. This one rests. Every time when he rests, it's always very mindful and clearly comprehending. This means he abides in Nibbanic bliss. And here he enters the meditative attainment of compassion to survey the world to see whether he can be of service to anyone. Okay, let's look at it all together. That's the forenoon, means the morning session. That's how the sutta uses the word. Afternoon and night. The commentaries actually mention that even in the morning, the Buddha will survey the world. Over here, it doesn't say so because I took it directly from the suttas, but I won't be surprised if it does, because he never turns anyone away, especially those who can be helped. And we look at this, very busy man, no payment, except in terms of alms food. And I wonder whether he has annual leave of 21 days per year, 30 days medical leave, public holidays, I don't think so. And no retirement age either. 45 years of doing this. So, you can say that the Buddha is the most energetic and active spiritual teacher that ever lived. Okay, he spent his whole life, day and night, in selfless service to humans and Devas. And the reason why he only helped humans and Devas is because only they are capable of realization. Next, you have Buddha. Now, Buddha comes from the word Buddh, the verbal root, which means to know, to understand, or to discern, or to awaken. Okay, there's one explanation of Buddha is based on buddhi as the faculty of understanding. The other one, to awaken, is based on vibuddhi, which awaken means awaken from sleep of defilements. So this quality of Buddha can be rendered as either enlightened one or awakened one. Okay, Bhagawa means blessed one. This 9th and last epithet of the Buddha represents the Buddha as one who has fulfilled all the other 8 qualities because of his great compassion to living beings. And to understand this quality better, we have to take a look at the problems that he faced in his 45 years of teaching. Okay, we don't have time because there's so many problems, so we only look at some aspects of just these 3 areas: social prejudices, threats from rival sects, and problems within the Sangha. First, social prejudices. The Buddha had to face this, especially from the Brahmins, who are the people from the highest priest caste. You know, India has a caste system, with the highest being the priest, and they are very snooty people. Okay, they shunned the Buddha, they challenged him, they despised him. Why? Because number one, he came from the more inferior warrior caste, the Khattiya caste. And number two, he rejected the Vedas, which is the equivalent of the Bible and the Quran. And naturally, the Brahmins, okay, who follow the Vedas, were very angry with him. If you look at the top left-hand picture, that is the Buddha advising them against animal sacrifice, which actually forms part and parcel of their religion, called Brahmanism. And the social prejudice was so bad at that time that some Brahmins actually consider it bad luck to see a monk. And during the Buddha's time, okay, this threat from rival sects, there were many religious teachers and ascetics preaching their own doctrines. Okay, and as the Buddha's teachings attracted more and more followers, they actually became very jealous. And a lot of them plotted to destroy him and his Sangha. Let's look at some of the more serious cases. The first one, the Buddha was accused by this lady called Chinka Mahavika of impregnating her. She was a very devious woman. She would hang around Jetavana monastery, that's Buddha's monastery, near closing time, and she would stay there for a few hours to give people the impression that she spent the night there. Okay, then of course, during the trial, there was an accident that they found out she actually faked pregnancy. And the second one, okay, Buddha was framed for the murder of this lady, okay, who's a disciple from another sect and who herself actually went around trying to gather evidence to discredit the Buddha. But she was later killed by her own teachers and buried near Jetavana monastery. So when they unearthed her, of course, all the fingers pointed at the Buddha. But Buddha was exonerated in the end. But you can see there was a lot of damage done. Because people are like that. The more sensational the news, the more readily they will believe it. And the third was the most tragic, was the murder of Moggallana. Now, Buddha has two lieutenants, Sariputta and Moggallana. Sariputta is considered his right-hand man, second to him in wisdom, and responsible for teaching the novice monks all the way up, bringing them all the way up to the Sotapanna level. That means the first stage of enlightenment. And Moggallana is considered his left-hand man, second to him only in psychic powers, okay? And Moggallana is responsible for bringing the monks from Sotapanna level all the way up to Arahantship, okay? And this happened when the Buddha was really quite old. And so you can imagine his death, Moggallana's death, was a big blow to the morale of the Sangha. And why all these were done? Is all in the name of rivalry, of competition, for limited resources in the form of lay followers and financial support. And then there were problems within the Sangha, lots and lots of them, especially after the order grew and the Buddha's decentralized ordination. Okay, unlike the Buddha, the disciples who conducted the ordination did not have the kind of spiritual powers to sieve out the sincere people from the ones with wrong intentions. Okay, so naturally, there were lots of problems. Like, for example, there were monks who lied that they were noble ones, enlightened ones. Why? Because the Buddha told the lay people that alms given to the noble ones will earn them merits that were exponentially greater than alms given to other people. Okay, and then there are also monks who molested nuns, a monk who instigated someone else to kill himself because he coveted that man's wife, and a monk who gave poison to a lady who wanted an abortion, and also a monk who slept with his ex-wife because she wanted a son and heir. Okay, and there are lots more, by the way. And why do you think there were so many rules in the Patimokkha? Okay, by the way, it doesn't mean that more rules for nuns means the nuns were more badly behaved. A lot of the rules were introduced for nuns to protect them. Okay, now these rules were not established right from the start. They were introduced one by one as and when the circumstances warranted it. But there are also some problems that cannot be covered by rules. Okay, for instance, there are people who were dissatisfied with the Buddha, monks, then they disrobed and they went around bad-mouthing him. You can't stop that. Okay? And then there were monks who misinterpreted his teachings and then went around teaching other people wrong dharma. And this one's the most interesting one. A group of the monks, okay, followed instructions, did the reflection on the loathsomeness of the body, and then they got so disgusted with their own bodies, they committed suicide one by one. And then poor Buddha came back from his rains retreat and then asked Ananda, how come the Sangha suddenly became so greatly diminished in size? Okay, you call this what? Black humor, is it? So, all these problems. And then there was problems created by Devadatta. Okay, now, this Devadatta attempted to take leadership away from the Buddha. He failed to do so. Then he tried other means to undermine the Buddha's leadership and credibility. First, he instigated Prince Ajatasattu, who's the son of King Bimbisara. Okay, he told the prince, take the throne from your father. So that's what he did. And then he imprisoned the father, he tortured the father, and he killed the father. And this way, the Buddha actually lost very important patron support because King Bimbisara was a very strong supporter of the Buddha. Okay, that was not enough. He then hired mercenaries to kill the Buddha. And it was a very complicated plot. He hired 2 mercenaries to kill Buddha, then he arranged for 4 to kill these 2, and then 8 to kill these 4. Why? To cover his own tracks. But you know the Buddha cannot be killed, right? And these people actually met up with the Buddha, got repentant, and all of them converted and became his followers. And then what he did, he tried to hurl a stone at the Buddha. Couldn't kill him, but he managed to hurt the Buddha's foot, and the Buddha suffered a lot of pain because of that. And then he also got an elephant drunk, okay, and so the elephant would go on a rampage right in the Buddha's path, but you all know the story. The Buddha managed to subdue the elephant with loving kindness. And that was not all he did. The worst thing he did, okay, was schism in the Sangha. He recommended what he thought was more austere practices, okay, to the Sangha members and to Buddha to show everybody that he was a more serious practitioner than the Buddha. But of course, the Buddha refused to implement these practices, which include things like, okay, cannot wear robes, only wear rags. Okay, then cannot stay in monastery, must go in the forest to stay there. They cannot eat meat at all. Okay, so the Buddha said, no, cannot do that. And but even though the Buddha refused to implement this, a lot of damage was already done. Because some monks actually agreed with Devadatta and they followed him and left the Sangha to start their own order. And also, all the infighting was very bad for the morale of the Sangha. Actually, you want to know all these, you can actually read Silver Bay's book, Between the Lines. Okay, and she tells you the story of the Buddha without all the frills. Actually, to go through what the Buddha did required not only compassion. It needed infinite patience as well, loving kindness, tolerance. You know, right, as an arahant, the Buddha couldn't create any new karma, whether good or bad. And helping humankind and devas this way couldn't earn him any more merits. So he didn't have to go out and help others and guide them He could easily have retired to his Sakyan clan and lived out his life in luxury and nibbanic bliss. But he did all this for one reason, and one reason only: compassion. Okay. I know everyone has faith in him, but more people are here because of faith in the Dharma, the practice itself. That's natural. Your faith in the Buddha will not come in torrents in the beginning, okay? But they always have this saying, when you see the Buddha, you see the Dharma. When you see the Dharma, you see the Buddha. You will not understand this yet, but after you have practiced for some time, and you find that you benefit from the practice, and then you start to see Dharma for yourself, that is when your faith in the Buddha will grow. In fact, it will grow for the whole Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And along with it, your respect and your gratitude will grow too. And by that time, I hope you will agree with what Ajahn Chah says, which is this: if you really knew how to bow to the Buddha, you would have tears in your eyes. Finish. Okay, so now when you chant the Buddha Vandana, you will know exactly what these words mean, and hopefully it will become more meaningful for you. Okay, like what I taught you, shared with you last week, right? Sometimes for the faith-oriented ones, you can usually chant the Buddha Vandana over and over again to help quiet down your minds. Okay, the energy that you feel from chanting the Buddha Vandana is actually different from the energy you get when you do metta meditation. Any questions? Or treat like storytelling, huh? Very fun.